Hey YouTube, Sam here. Well, I got another deal. Look for things, look for projects. If you're handy and can tinker with things and know a little bit about electrical, these are great things to get. In fact, if you stay till the end of this video, I will show you another project I found for you won't believe how much. Much better than this one here, only it's not near as nice. So I'll show you that at the end. And I'm not sure exactly what this is. It's like it says J6 on here. I think it's like a Quest J6. I can't remember exactly. As many of you know, I need a wheelchair every now and then, and I went to this consignment store. And this actually, there's a bunch more pieces and things. I've kind of started taking it apart. This was sitting in a corner with no money on it, or no price on it. So when I was up kind of buying my stuff, I asked the people up there, I said, hey, how much you asking for the wheelchair back there, just to figure it out. And the lady said, yeah, just offer me anything, I'll take about anything for it. And I kind of hemmed and hawed, and I didn't have money. I don't have money right now. And so I was like, well, that's all right. I don't want to offer you some lowball number, because I figured this chair's, I figured at the time maybe $300-400 minimum, around $1,000, because it looks pretty new. It's kind of more what I was thinking she'd want for it, maybe a little more. Anyhow, and so I just kind of went on, started buying my stuff, and the lady just kind of had this look on her face. She says, you know what, if somebody offered me $100 for it, I would take it. And that just kind of floored me. And sadly, it turns out it was her husband whose chair it was, and he had passed away, not recently, but it had been about a year or so, it sounded like to me. And she just wanted it gone. She doesn't want it sitting in a corner while, looking at it. So she just really wanted it gone. And I asked her several times, are you sure? Are you sure? I mean, I can do $100 right now, no problem, but are you sure? And she kept saying she just wanted it gone. So actually, I went away for like an hour. I went ahead and paid for it right then. I said, think about it. I got to go get my truck to haul it home with. So, and I live a little ways away from where it was. It was probably about a half hour away. So an hour there and back, maybe a little more. Went and grabbed my truck and went back in there, and I asked her again, are you sure? Because I know this chair is worth a lot more than that. I feel a little guilty, to be honest. But she just wanted it gone. So there you go. Part of the reason why I got such a good deal on it, and I think a pretty big reason, is I think she'd been trying to sell it for a while at her store, and nobody really wanted to touch it because somebody's been in here. There's wires hanging out. There's a battery missing. The tray was sticking out like this. There's a battery back there. And her story was, it doesn't run. The batteries either were bad or needed charged but wouldn't charge with the charging system. There is issues with this chair. Granted, $100 worth of issues. I don't know. I'm hoping I can just put a couple batteries in here and get things working. But I think part of it was whoever was messing with this didn't know what they were doing. They started pulling it apart before they could get the batteries really out of it, and it's a real pain in the butt, because now that this is all like this, you can't really get to that second battery or pull it out enough. You can get that first one out, but that second one's pretty well jammed in there unless these legs go up. Well, this leg doesn't go up, I don't think anyway. I haven't been able to find anything yet. I will look more, and I may have to look on the internet, but they go up with the battery. There's a button that makes these legs go up and down. So I need to look more into it, but I figured I'd let you guys join along for the ride here, and we'll get this going, and I'll either use it or depending on how much this thing is actually worth, I may need to sell it just so I can pay a few bills here. So we'll see what happens. First thing I've done is taken my good old Harbor Freight battery charger here. This thing is awesome. I've used it for tons of stuff. But anyhow, I went ahead and hooked it up as if it was the battery sitting in that hole right there. And that one back there doesn't look like whoever started working on this ever got to it. It's all tight, all the wires are tight on that battery. They got the one battery out and quit for some reason. Next thing I went to do, because this wasn't enough juice, every time it would start turning on and it would light up and it would basically say low battery. So that other battery's toast. So anyhow, I went ahead and hooked this battery charger up to it, and it came with it. And the first thing happened was the knob on the end there kind of fell apart a little bit. Somebody's been messing with that, and the way they had it in there, it actually wouldn't plug in to the end here, into the knob. I actually pulled it the rest of the way apart and turned some stuff around and stuck it back together correctly, and now, hey, we'll see. I'll go ahead and get her charged up. We'll let this do its thing. All the lights on there, you probably can't see them, but the power is green, the charge is green. Green to me seems good. Nothing turned red, so I think having this hooked up there the way I have it hooked should be fine. I hooked the red to the red and the black to the ground, so that should be, I would assuming anyway, and you know what happens when you assume, but anyway, I'm assuming that that's the way this is hooked up in here. So we'll go ahead and let this thing charge, see if we can at least get enough out of that battery to get these legs raised, or find out if there might be other problems once I get the battery charged. Okay, well, I think I did something right. I've let this charge for a little while, and I came back out here, and I've been playing with the buttons, and so far I've been able to get it to, well, to go up and down here. I got to figure out, there's a bunch of numbers and you got to kind of push up and down. At the very least, I'm going to get these legs out of the way. That's all the way up, and I can make the seat raise too. So quite honestly, people, I've been looking around on the internet, and this chair is worth quite a bit of money, surprisingly. So this is nuts. I can at least get this completely out of my way here. I have a couple more wheelchairs around here, and so I took some of my old batteries that are the right size and fit in here perfectly, and hooked those things up. And here's the deal, whoever did this, first of all, if you have one of these J6, I don't know exactly what the model of this is. I'm gonna have to figure that out, and I'll write it in the description hopefully, or in the heading. Either way, if you have one that's like this, you definitely have to get this seat up before you start trying to take these batteries out, or it's going to be a bear. I'm pretty sure that's why I got such a good deal on this, is that I'm sure whoever owned it probably tried to mess with the batteries when the batteries died on it and couldn't figure it out. And by the looks to me, maybe a couple people have messed with this trying to get it figured out. And unless you have these legs up, you ain't getting it out. So you got to figure out a way to get power to those batteries long enough to at least start moving this chair out of the way. At the very least, you need to have the legs raised all the way up. Then there's this tray under here. I can't get all the way in right now. I have to mess with it. But anyway, you're going to want to pull that out until it stops. You're going to pull that positive cable off. Then you're going to pull it out until you get to the negative one on the back battery. Pull that negative one off. Then the whole thing will come out. The two on this side, because I believe this is 24 volt, so it's hooked in, I don't know if it's parallel or series. You guys can write that in the comments. But either way, it's positive to negative, positive to negative. which gives you the 24 volts. Like I hooked up my trailer. Go check out that video. Anyhow, that's how this one works. So once you get the two off on this side, the positive and negative, this whole box will come out, and then these two are just hooked down here to this thing. So that's the way this works, and quite honestly, I haven't gone any further with the wiring. I will say that this is as far out as you're going to get it. You ain't getting to that back battery till you get this one off, and then you're still not going to get to it very easily to this back negative cable, because it was kind of a bear to put it all back in there. So if you got one of these, just so you know, before you start messing with the batteries, get that chair up in the air. Here's another little lesson, in case you have one of these, or you find one of these like I did. Get all the little parts and pieces, because there was little parts and pieces laying down inside here, and some sitting on top of the chair here, this piece here especially. So make sure anything that's there, you get a hold of it, because this piece here goes on the top of that and kind of holds them batteries in there. It has this little pin thing which just kind of goes through, I'm assuming, and holds that up on the chair there. So stuff you need to know. Just make sure you get all the parts and pieces. I think this is all put back. Definitely not adjusted for me. It definitely needs some adjustments if I was to actually use it. But we'll see how things go here. We got the batteries in it. I've tested. I know it works. I just figured I'd show you kind of what was going on here. So here's it. Runs back and forth. It's got what appears to be 3 speeds: really slow, a little bit faster, and really slow but even faster than that. This is a pretty slow chair compared to my other ones, it seems like, but I haven't been able to get out and run it either. Then you kind of hit the little button until you get your chair. You can lift your legs, and they go all the way out. You just didn't hold the button long enough. So, you know what? I'm going to put that down, because quite honestly, that's how I use it. Says it'll go up to 300 pounds. I don't quite get that. And something I thought was kind of really neat about this one is it actually does that. So if you have shorter arms, or I think this is kind of for like a helper, if you had a helper with you, this would make it so they could kind of go walk alongside you and do a little bit of helping here. But when that kind of comes up in, then you got your own. This adjusts around more. Like I said, I think it must have been a fairly short person in this last time, because I'm pretty average height, and it's definitely too short for me. Seat's actually surprisingly comfortable. So anyhow, what am I going to do with it? I could keep it, but quite honestly, I could probably sell this and buy 3 or 4, if not more, chairs that would work probably better for me. 2, sell it, keep the chairs I have because they work fine for me, which is honestly what I'll probably end up doing. Just because after just even messing with this a little bit, I realized with my leg issues, this leg piece doesn't adjust enough for making my my legs work. So we'll kind of have to kind of test out the waters. If I do sell it, I'll be real honest with you, I feel a little bit guilty still for getting this for $100. This chair is worth way more than that. So what my plan is to sell it, get enough to buy a couple new batteries for my other chair, because the batteries, I've been using these batteries for a little while. They're still in good shape. They still hold a charge. It was fully charged when I put them in, and they've been sitting for a little while. I always keep them charged up all the time. I put them on the charger every so often, whether I use it or not. I keep them inside during cold weather, so I've taken real good care of these batteries, and I will continue to. But at the same time, I might as well get a set of new batteries. So if I can get enough out of this chair to get another set of batteries for my chair, and you know, pay a couple bills, the time I have isn't a whole lot into this. So when it's all said and done, if I get a decent chunk of change for it, I will go back to that lady and give her some money back. And you know, that's all going to depend on how much we actually get. So, all right. I know this wasn't much of a DIY or do-it-yourself. More of this was to show you to keep your head on a swivel, ask questions. If you have any, you know, if you see something that's laying in a corner somewhere and it looks like it's been half torn apart like this was, there's a good chance you can probably get a good deal on it, because whoever was starting it didn't want to finish it for some reason, which at the same time you might end up with somebody else's junk. But for $100, I could part this thing out and get several dollars more than $100 out of this thing. So I knew I was pretty safe giving the $100, and quite honestly, that's where my guilt doesn't go any further, because obviously somebody had messed with this a lot and just couldn't figure it out, got frustrated with it, left it half torn apart. There was only one battery in it, so I had to, you know, I'm going to have to put something in it to get batteries in it. And batteries are super expensive for this thing. Somebody really just couldn't figure it out and stopped halfway through of tearing things apart. So in that sense, this wouldn't have got done by who owned it. It would have sat there forever. So, but like I said, if I get a lot of money, I mean, these things, I don't know, they're supposedly selling for like up to $7,000 on eBay. Whether or not they actually sell for that price, I don't know. If I was to get that kind of money, I'm taking a few thousand back to the lady, because I'm not going to make that much profit off of something. That's up to you if you get a deal like I did and make that kind of profit. But I would feel really guilty about that. So keep your head on a swivel. Main point there. I know I'm rambling on, as everybody tells me. Keep your head on a swivel. All right, and here it is. $5. How'd I do that? Well, first of all, there's no batteries in it. I did check. It does lock up, so I'm pretty sure there's a motor in it. I have no idea anything about this other than you can tell by the looks of it, it sat outside for quite a while and got abused. Now here's the thing, caveat on that. Even if I can't get this running and looking better and maybe sell it for a few bucks, which I don't even know if I'm going to want to do that, I have another one similar to this but newer that I love. Problem with that, the thing is a billy goat, and I've taken it off-road a few too many times, and I've bent the rear axle so it shakes a little bit, which is kind of uncomfortable. This one has almost exactly the same, if not the exact same rear end on it, so I might see about taking the whole axle assembly out of this and putting it on mine. But anyhow, yet another thing, keep your head on a swivel. This was in the back of a Goodwill. They hadn't even brought it inside yet. It'd been sitting out there. I drove past it and I said, oh, I could go see when they bring that in. And the next day I drove back by and it was still sitting out there, so I went and asked the guy, and the guy said, oh, I don't know, and how about $5, and loaded it in the back of my truck for me when I gave him the $5. Actually, he loaded it in the back of my truck for me, let me drive around, and then give him the $5. So that was awful nice of him. So for $5, yet again, I should hopefully be able to use parts and pieces off this. I might tinker with it, see if I can get it going. And you know, at the very least, I'll use it for mine, which is probably what will end up happening, actually. All right, this is Sam, Jack of all, master of none. You all have a good one.